So Ash, the last time we spoke, you and I went to La Jolla Shores for the Halloween dive. We were wearing costumes. I was the octopus's teacher, had a little stuffed octopus. He was Waldo. Good times on Halloween.
Yeah.
I remember as we were coming out of the canyon, and there was that baby seal that kept following us underwater.
Yeah. Candidly, that one needed the recognition that he had found Waldo.
He definitely had found Waldo, and as a matter of fact, I'll never forget how he kind of like was almost like a fighter plane doing like loops around us. Right, an incredible experience, and a very clear day, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, these animals are really, really friendly. They like to kind of show off, and why not? It's our pleasure to watch them. So
Yes, and we're kind of in their living room, so to speak. When we went diving, we had met the previous year. You were an open water diver, and very quickly rise to the ranks of now I think is it dive master.
yeah. I fell in love with it. I'd always wanted to dive. My mom was a diver growing up. She taught me how to snorkel at a very young age. I'd lived in the lived close to the Red Sea for 4 years, so I really had a chance to experience that, and always found a love for the ocean and growing up near it.
Very, very nice. I have not yet had the pleasure of diving the Red Sea, but that's some of the best diving in the world, if I'm correct.
I didn't have a chance to dive it. It was back in the early '90s, actually '92 when I left. I was much younger than I am now, and so I just remember the tropical fish. I remember, a lot of beautiful things, the glowing red algae, which reason why the Red Sea is named for itself is because of the algae. So I just remember a lot of beautiful aspects, and of course the water temperature was phenomenal.
Yes. When you go diving, for a lot of our viewers today may have never done this. What is it like to be under the water? I mean, we can see it like on the Animal Planet. You can go to the aquarium. How is that dynamic so different when you're in the water?
For me, diving isn't just about the adventure. It's about what it does for me. Right off the bat, it's an escape. You get under there, you don't hear anything. You hear no sirens. You hear no text messages. You hear no complaints. Your boss isn't down your throat. So honestly, it's almost got kind of a meditative quality. Naturally, I like to talk a lot, and I don't feel like I listen as much. And really down there is you can really be a lot more intrinsic with your thoughts and your feelings, and it's almost got a meditative state to it.
Yeah.
Candidly, also the adventure is a big thing for me. Curiosity is something that humans will always have. So I think that's a big portion of it. And the last is just enjoying what we have. We pay and work so hard to live here in San Diego that the idea of not taking advantage of something that we have literally in our backyard to our full extent is really almost shameful in a sense, and so I never want to be that guy that's in San Diego and go to the beach twice a year, so.
No, absolutely. And also being myself in advanced open water, one of the things that it is really that profound experience. It's almost as if you're in outer space. There's so much that we don't know about the ocean. Being there in close proximity with all the sea life, with the kelp beds, and seeing all the different fish species, and occasionally the shark that we see. Here in San Diego, basically you're going to be seeing leopard sharks, horn sharks, very small. Occasionally, I haven't had the opportunity of seeing the seven gills, very open water pelagic fish, prehistoric as a matter of fact, but I'll look forward to that. And then we also actually have sea turtles. I was with my nephew earlier last year, and we actually came to an encounter with the green sea turtles, which are by the marine room about a quarter mile south, snorkeling. So San Diego has just such a rich biodiversity that you can go all year round. You do need a cold water suit. So Ash, you gave us a really good explanation of getting into the sport. Why the passion? What drew you into this?
For me, I lived a life not in control, and my past experiences had really lived in a life of chaos, and I still kind of did all right. I still kind of thrived, and now that I have my life in control, I really appreciate that control. And now being able to accomplish things like diving to 160 feet and jumping out of a plane continuously, and being able to do that safe and being in control really is a good feeling. I give myself recognition for it, and others do, and you know, candidly, what I like to strive for in life.
Right, and it's the sense of the adventure.
Definitely there too. I mean, it's never a dull moment falling, at 120 miles an hour out of a plane from 12,500 feet, or diving to the depths of the ocean and seeing a giant sea bass. So the adventure is there as well, and I just love every minute of it.
Yeah, now I've only, like I said, had one experience, tandem, right, and then dive pretty avidly. So one of the things that I wanted to focus on today a little bit was your story, how we got the backstory of how you went from a certain lifestyle to the current lifestyle as a diver, a skydiver, and realtor. You've had some success in the industry,
Yeah.
like you said. Right now, there's a lot going on in the market, limited sellers. COVID was kind of preventing a lot of people wanting to sell, and then just the supply and demand has just been unbelievable at this time. Not a lot of properties out there.
Right.
Like we said, there was about 675,000 was the average 3-bedroom, 2-bath house. Where do you see the market going? Do you see it continuing to rise, or do you think we're going to level out? Do you think it's going to drop?
No one knows. At the end of the day, a lot of people are asking, is the market going to bottom out? Are we going to see a correction? And ultimately, what we're seeing now that we didn't see in 2007 is a lot of buyers are coming in with equity. People are coming in with 10, 20, 30% down. And so the chances of somebody walking away from that and defaulting on a loan when they have equity is a lot less likely than what we saw in 2008 with no money down.
Yeah, the 0%, right? Things would go up a half an arm, and then people could not afford it. There were definitely different times at the time, and that movie, The Big Short, I believe Brad Pitt and Christian Bale kind of described that for us. One of the things that I had noticed is a lot of people have been exiting California. I think over the last 2 years, about 70,000 people a year are leaving. I had a friend of mine, family moved, sold their house, bought cash in Texas. A lot of people are moving out. But I'm also noticing small towns in Idaho and Texas, and then there's Florida, and all other places that people are moving to, the prices are starting to go up.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, you can move out of these, the nice city like San Diego, but ultimately, from what I've talked to people that live in Arizona and stuff, it's almost combated by their expenses on utilities. I mean, yeah, you might pay $650 for a beautiful house here, but you don't use any energy. You're on solar. I mean, there's so many options here, whereas in another place, you still need a nice house. You still want a nice house, but in addition to the nice house, you want to live in a nice climate in that nice house.
Right.
And so ultimately, those pricing and then the utilities are still going to climb. And so ultimately, it's good to get in, and it's good to get in early, and where you see fit and where you see yourself living.
Right, and so climate has a big impact. We pay for the weather in California. It's very moderate weather. It's interesting. Our weather here is very similar to the Mediterranean. It's a great place to be, but you pay for where you live, obviously.
Yeah, and I don't want buyers to get gun shy. Ultimately, it's about working with an individual that's a go-getter. In this market, it's the first one in the door. It's the people writing the offers the strongest, and the people candidly that don't quit that win. And naturally, I think it's a lot easier for real estate agents to go after the listings, and it's just an easier. You're getting 20 different offers, and it says a lot about the real estate agent that wants to work with buyers, that really wants to help them out and to have them win. And I think that's what separates Front Door Realty Group and myself from the other real estate agents, is the candid, no quit attitude and the quick action. Because You know, things don't sit on the market these days, so if you're quick to act and you have a realtor and a system that works well with speed, will win out.
Yeah, and really dedicated to your client base. Just not trying to push product, but really finding the house and the property and the price point. All those things trying to mix, but also working at, in a sense, a bit of lightning speed, because there's so many offers going onto a home, right?
Yeah, I mean, you know, ultimately, it's actually kind of easy for me these days as a real estate agent in regards to sourcing properties. With things like Zillow and the technology and the applications that I send properties to, I just send them a list and have those clients pick the ones they want to see. So not only am I filtering these out based on the criteria they're looking for,
Sure.
they're going through on a personal level and going through those properties virtually from the safety of their own home, and then letting me know which ones they want to see. It's real simple after that. We sign a small PED form for those who are interested in showing and viewing a property. Simple form saying you haven't come in contact with COVID in the last 14 days. It's done on every property. And you know, that's at no cost to you. We go take a tour at the home privately on an appointment set based on your convenience, and we go from there.
Yeah. And even during the corona, and hopefully we're on the back end. I mean, we're at over 165 million recoveries, 200 million vaccinations, 99.6% recoveries with 0.4% at this time in pandemic, right, where they're in critical condition. So we are definitely moving forward. In California, it looks like June the 15th is when they're going to basically really open.
Oh wow, I had no idea.
Yeah, so, and I think a third of the country is kind of reopening. So as we're getting there and approaching it as carefully as possible, even though during the current, you know, situation that we're in, it allows people to have a little more of the concierge service. They're alone. There's not like 5 of their families going through the house. They have their own time to really sit down and take a look at it, take a deep breath, look at the backyard. Is this where I could see myself? So I think that's really great that in the realty world, even though things are a little impacted because we can't have open houses the way they were, that will return. You're kind of having that concierge service. Ash, really would love to hear about lifestyle changes, being out of control. You had your own struggles, and could you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah.
And how your sports and your lifestyle change, and now your career has aided in just a much better life.
Yeah, so I guess, you know, candidly, we'll just start from the beginning. I grew up in a upper middle class, you know, neighborhood in Encinitas, and you know, just like any other kids, we'd have our fun. We'd find adults to buy us beer and smoke pot, and you know, as things progressed, it slowly got, you know, more occasional. You know, you turn 21.
Sure.
You know, that whole can of worms opens up, and you slowly see yourself starting to make more moves as far as progressions into drugs and into the increased amount of drinking, what you're drinking. You know, it's moved from light beer to Irish whiskey by that point. You know, initially it was cocaine, meth a little bit, but it was one of those things that was also kind of brought on by my lifestyle. And what I meant by that is, you know, working in bars and restaurants, you're working late, you're working weekends, and you're really jived up after. You know, when you get off work, it's not something where you go home, take a shower, and you go to bed. You want to go out, some of the fun of your own that you had just been basically, you know, coming from a semi-wealthy family. My younger sisters were doing phenomenal in their careers. Both my parents with master's degrees. I didn't see myself essentially where I wanted to be. I saw myself staying up till 5, 6 in the morning, waking up at 9 o'clock, barely getting ready to go work a double shift. Throughout that shift, having, you know, really terrible stomach pains and having to excuse myself, and then taking a break, sleeping in my car to work the next bar shift, and then literally partying that night and doing the exact identical same thing over and over again.
Starts to burn the candle at both ends.
Oh, I mean, burn the candle at both ends. I mean, I lit a flare on both ends, and so with my personality and my go-getterness, as you saw how my progression from open water to dive master is a nutshell of how I do everything. It's how I deal with my relationships with other women. It's how I dealt with my drug use, and it's how I deal now with my current progression into the benefits of my life and the benefits I'm learning.
Right. So you took that drive from the kind of the partying lifestyle, right, and some of the drugs and alcohol, and in a sense, when you realized that this was going to essentially destroy you, you took that drive into a positive spin.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the scariest parts of my life was the lack of direction I had combined with the amount of energy that I have. Because if that power and that energy is not focused and not to a benefit, it can be detrimental to the next person.
Absolutely.
By that point, I'd wrecked a number of cars. I'd recently crashed a sports car, and I ended up getting a DUI. This was September 16th, 2018. I was 32 at that point. I'd been drinking heavily all weekend. Gotten back into town and gotten pulled over, and was really kicking myself at that point. Did the whole bail out of jail, get your car towed out, and literally got home that day, and there were about 3 beers or 4 beers in my fridge. And I cracked it open, and rather than pouring it down my throat, I poured it down the drain.
That was the realization.
And that was the point that I knew I wasn't happy. I was in and out of management positions. What I thought was a manageable and successful career was something that was hanging by a thread and really just walking on eggshells. And what I assumed to be my reality was more of like a facade and a blurred vision of what others were seeing of me.
Yeah.
And that's the biggest thing. It's not what my reality was, it was what others saw me as.
Which wasn't really.
Which was a hungover manager.
Yeah.
Which was one that cut out early because they knew that he was going to probably go out drinking.
So, when you decided that this was enough of this kind of lifestyle, you decided, being a man of high energy, very goal-driven, you started to engage in other activities, what I would call coping skills, right? How to deal with life in a much more healthier way. Now, of course, skydiving is a little on the edge, but yet again, it is a great outlet. And it's an incredible way to live life with a sense of adventure. And the scuba diving. I remember we were talking one time when we went diving, and you said you had been sober for so many hundreds of days. How long have you been sober now?
I don't have the exact number. I know I'm just a little over 2.5 years. I know my 1,000 days are coming up really soon. I think I'm about 30 days away from that. And I just look forward to the future. I mean, I didn't plan any of this. I got sober. I started working out. I was on a ski trip, and I saw an ad for the summer sale for Ocean Enterprise, which is, by the way, a great dive organization, dive shop that we're both affiliated with as clients. I saw their summer sale, and I got into diving. And then next thing you know, I'm signing up for advanced, and then rescue, and then dive master. And then I'm randomly celebrating my birthday in December, and the dominoes fall on the skydiving. So it's incredible what you're capable of doing if you give yourself a chance. It's incredible what the human mind is capable of doing through acts of successful repetition and correct practices. And so I really challenge everyone that watches this to don't sell yourself short, and to really understand that anything is possible as long as you don't worry about family.
And I think that's one of the things that most people is that fear. I know in AA they talk about false evidence appearing real, right? Where people look at their fears and they feed into that. It's almost as if, we'll look at it from the scope of a lawn in this analogy. Do I want to go ahead and water the lawn and mow it and add fertilizer? Or do I want to put water on the weeds and fertilize them. Whatever we put our focus on, and when we have a goal, that's where we can begin to grow. And the consistency and the support that you've had, and there's a lot of friends and people that have been involved in your sobriety, and you've turned your life around, and here we are 1,000 days later. So hopefully this will encourage our viewers that if you have your own addictions, if you have some fear about going after some goals that you had because you're worried about failure, failure is only showing you this was one way that you shouldn't do it, and you learn how to do it. It's a trial and error situation. But the key thing is the consistency, working at it, continually to perfect what you're doing, and then we end up where we're at. Ash, I have to say it was a pleasure to see you again, sir. I look forward to diving with you again. Maybe when you get to the instructor level, I'll go tandem with you in the plane. It's been a while since I've gone skydiving, but thanks again for being on the show. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much.
Thanks again for watching the show today, and if you enjoyed it, please hit the subscribe button. This is Ricardo Del California wishing you a good day.